Going to click the record.
Yeah,
We're in.
right, right.
Fantastic. How are you guys? You all good?
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
fine,
we're
thank
good.
you. We just got back from holidays, so it's taken a while to get back into things.
Whereabouts have you been?
Egypt,
Oh, wow. Amazing.
yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah.
So I went to Egypt when I was about 17 with an ex-girlfriend many years ago, and we did no sightseeing whatsoever. We just stayed in the hotel, so we could have just been in any country in the
Yeah,
world.
I mean, to be honest, we were the same. We didn't do any of the sites as such, did we? We have been to this place a couple of times before, so it was really more of a fly and a flop holiday.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we
Well,
did
glad you enjoyed it. So you're back in the zone now, yeah?
well. Yeah, trying
Yeah,
to be.
yeah. We tried while we were away, didn't we?
Yeah, it was nice and easy to do breakfast, nice and easy to
Yeah.
do lunch, but then it all went belly up at evening meal.
Well, to be fair, I'll let you off. You were on holiday in Egypt.
Yeah.
Was it a week you went for or two?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Right. 'Cause this is the thing. So, if we just zoom out and get a bit of perspective, there's 52 weeks in the year. So even if you did that again at some point this year, that's like still less than 10% of the year that's just not optimal and perfect nutritionally
Yeah.
speaking. Do you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's that as well. Well, it sounds like you did a good job whilst you were away regardless.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We cut back on what we would have normally have had quite substantially.
What we normally would drink. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
All the Egyptian cocktails.
Yeah.
Oh no, we didn't have
We
any
didn't
of
have
those.
any of those. And I did find out that a glass of lager has less calories than a glass
Lots of rose.
rosé wine. So I had lager instead of rosé.
Fair play.
But we did have red wine in the evening
Yeah, but only one glass.
at lunchtime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at lunchtime. Yeah.
Love it. Alex has joined us as well. How's it going, Alex? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can hear me, can you?
Brilliant. Perfect. That's great.
Good, good, good.
Yeah.
How
Okay,
you doing?
tell you what we'll do. We'll get cracking. If it's okay, I promise you, I'm not being rude, but if you could just mute yourselves, that would be fantastic. I'll just mute you for you, Bev. I was just hovering over it anyway. However, if at any point you want to unmute yourself and just have a chat and like ask any questions, you're more than welcome. So for today, it's slightly different today because I think with this topic, I think obviously it's just one that's just going to benefit absolutely everybody. If we could save you, a couple of £100 this year or something like that, it's still better in your pocket than the supermarkets or the energy companies or like wherever. So the focus for today is how to save a shed load of money with your nutrition. So to begin with, the first again this helps in a trillion area, well, maybe not a trillion, but like many different areas, not just on the financial side of things. We obviously, if we've got goals that we're wanting to achieve, whether that's running your first half marathon or something, or whether it's getting a PB on the weights in the gym, or it could be a million one different things, and nutrition is going to help massively with those things too. So obviously just factor that in as well, because you're going to kill, multiple birds with one stone if you just do this one thing. And on a side note as well, there was a few years ago, there was a piece of research that was published, and there was two different groups of people, and one group was in a meal planning group where the whole focus was to achieve their results. They were sort of educated on the meal planning side of things, and then there was a non-meal planning group. The group that were in the meal planning group, and to put it into perspective, if I could prescribe something for you that got you an extra, say, 20% of results, that would be massively statistically significant in nutrition research. Even 30%, 50% would have been mind-blowing. Now, in this particular piece of research, they literally got 100% more benefit. They get double the benefits. So when it comes to your results, please don't overstate the meal planning side of things. It helps massively. So of course we would just bring it back to the obviously the topic in hand. So it helps in many different ways. So one of the biggest things is reducing waste. So I watched a program. It was like a sort of BBC documentary thing. And what they were doing was they were going into supermarkets, and at the end of the, on the till, there's the conveyor belt thing, and then there's the till, and obviously you go and pay. The packing area, what they were doing was they were going up to people and saying, if it's okay with you, am I all right to take 20-30% of your shopping and just throw it in the bin now, if that's okay? And obviously everybody went, no, what on earth are you talking about? But the reality is, research has shown that we waste 20-30% of our big shop every single week. And there's many different reasons for that, but I think on the meal planning side of things is absolutely going to be critical to reducing that waste. Just so that you're not walking around the supermarket and you might be walking around a little bit peckish and have some fast hands going on there, and putting stuff in the basket that you probably don't really need. Also, there's the little yellow labels and stuff in the supermarket, and you think, do you know what? That sounds like a good deal on that cheese, but let's be honest, you're not going to consume like 2 blocks of cheese that week. You never set out to do that. So there's deals and offers, things like that, and when you get your meal plan together, that creates the sort of rules and the boundaries, I suppose. So, you don't need that extra multi-pack pack of crisps just because it's 50% off. It's you don't need, it's not part of the plan, so it doesn't go in the basket. So obviously that's where the silly spends section here comes in. Like we just touched upon the topic of weight loss, it helps hugely. Of course, when it comes to your nutrition targets, so your protein targets. So let's say for example, just for ease of maths, your target is 150 grams of protein per day, and you think, okay, well, I'll have 3 meals per day, breakfast, lunch, evening meal, and you just aim to get 50 grams of protein in each one of those meals. And then once you're creating those meals, you think to yourself, okay, cool, well, we need some chicken breast, we need some lean mince, and so the meal plan gradually starts populating itself predominantly based on your nutrition targets. Of course, we have the fruit and veg, or the 5 a day side of things. I'd like to add a little plus in there, so it's 5 plus per day. If we haven't already chatted before, you'll just to give you an idea, the 5 a day is a minimum for everybody. There was a nutritionist that I used to work with, and she was the head of the British Mountaineering Council, I think she was, and she did nutrition for lots of people all over the world. She had an amazing job where she got to visit lots of different countries and help lots of different outdoor pursuit, climbing, ice climbing teams, lots of different things. But through that experience, she realized that in lots of different countries, the thought of having 5 a day is actually quite low. It's completely normal in different countries for people to be having 6, 7, 8, 9 portions of fruit and veg per day. So one thing I would say is just don't see 5 a day as like a big overwhelming thing. It can literally be a case of grabbing a banana off the side. There you go, you've had 1. You can have a glass of fruit juice. There you go, you've got 2. Let's say, for lunch, it could be some grapes and some salad and shredded carrot and things like that in your wrap or sandwich or whatever it is that you're having. There you go, you've got 3. And 4, 5, 6 comes from your evening meal, because you've got it could be a sausage casserole or something with loads of different types of veg in there. Happy days. There you go. Just nice and simple. You've got 6 portions straight away. And also, I just want to hone in on this last point here. Amazing food as well. So, of course, we're talking about reducing waste, but on the nutrition topic, target side of things, it helps there too. But the other thing is, it helps you have amazing food because you're picking the stuff that you want to have. So I've got, I'm sure you can imagine, I've got 300 different cookbooks on the windowsill at my house. And it's anything from Ken Hom to Jamie Oliver to Rick Stein to Hairy Bikers to Wagamama's cookbook to this to that to this to that. And what I like to do is just set a little bit of time aside on a Sunday, and for me, I don't mind how long it takes because obviously I'm massively into it. I love it. You'd like to think. However, it doesn't have to take you. You don't have to do like a War and Peace style weekly plan here. It can literally just be 15 minutes, every Sunday, and that 15 minutes goes on to maximize and optimize and create like an amazing step-by-step plan for the next 168 hours the next week. So that 15 minutes is super valuable. And what I like to do is just go through well, a lot of my foods I post on my Instagram account. So I have a scroll through there, like, just scroll down for, what I was cooking a few months ago, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I forgot that I cooked that. That vegetable ramen was amazing. I'll factor that in this week. And then there's like a Rick Stein curry that I've forgotten about, and I'll get the recipe book or the cookbook out and go, okay, cool, yeah, let's get those ingredients into the shopping list. And just a little bit of that, and you end up like looking forward to your meals. So if you're looking forward to your meals, then that loops back into the adherence side of things. So you're gonna want to have that breakfast. You're gonna want to have lunch. You're gonna want to have your tea. I think there's a setting on your camera, Pep, that keeps following you around. It keeps like zooming in on you like that. I don't know what you've done there. No more distractions, please. Anyway, so we've again, like we said, I want you to enjoy the process. I don't want you to be sat down going, "Oh my God, I've got like chicken, broccoli, and rice again. I've got some boring porridge or something, or what." It can be it can be as sparkly and as incredible as you want. You can have as many flavors in there as you want, and it can be as simple as you want as well, equally. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't have to be. So if we take a look at some of these meals on the right hand side, these are some of the meals that I cook on a regular basis. So we've got like the top right here, we've got like a piri piri shredded chicken. This one in the middle is like a Tuscan salmon. We've got a curry on the top left here, looks like a little bit of a spicy one there. We've got a vegetable ramen with bok choy and shredded chicken. I more often than not in this one, but I more often than not put a couple of boiled eggs in there as well. So we're just bumping up those protein numbers. So you can see there's loads of different types of foods here. You wouldn't look at this and go, that's restrictive or boring or, something that you wouldn't want to look forward to. Again, your preferences might be different, but hopefully you can agree just by looking at it. There's loads of colors. It's like, I'm looking forward to having any of those meals. And I want the same for you as part of your plan as well. So on the cost saving side of things, we'll just bring it back again. So one of the things that takes up a huge amount, it's like a multi-million pound industry in the UK on the takeaway side of things. And by the way, I'm not going to be a grouch. If you want a takeaway, it's fine. But if you're falling into the sort of trap of having one or two, maybe three a week, and just because life's stressful and it's a bit of a whirlwind at the moment, and you just can't think about nutrition, you can't think what to have and things like that. Hopefully, this gives you a little bit of inspiration. So, what about pizza night? So, one of the things that we do in our family every Friday night, we like to make pizzas with the kids. I'd say probably 3/4 of the time, my wife has basically she does the baking, so she'll make the dough. Nice and simple. Well, apparently it's nice and simple. I've not done it, so I'm not going to take any credit for the dough. However, when it comes to the toppings, I absolutely love sitting down with the kids and chopping the ingredients up. And it's like, oh, kids, can you draw a rocket on your pizza, or like draw daddy's face with these mushrooms and pepperoni and blah, blah, blah. So it gets them involved as well. But not only that, you've gone from spending, 40, 50, 60 pounds on a Domino's or a Pizza Hut or whatever to literally having, it's like a few pounds per pizza. It's a ridiculous reduction in cost. Top right hand corner here, we've got it's like hoisin shredded chicken. There's quite a few shredded chicken recipes because we like to cook the whole chicken basically and use as much of that as possible. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. Again, something like this, I absolutely love ramens just because the sauce just tastes incredible, and because you've got so much of that broth, you've got so much license to put in a million different types of veg, and it still tastes incredible, if you get me. So there's like a little bit of tomato in there. There's chili. There'll be garlic. There'll be ginger. There'll be loads and loads of different herbs and spices, things like Chinese five spice, coriander, lime juice, and many other different bits and pieces as well. You can just fill your boots with whatever sort of veg that you want to put in there. And then we've got a chicken jalfrezi on the right hand side here as well. So, we're at a point now where sometimes we just go, yeah, of course, we'll just have the takeaway. It's no problem. But it's probably every couple of weeks, maybe. It's, that's probably the ratio for us. Once or twice a month would probably be about right. However, obviously, some people, they love the takeaways, but you can make them quicker. This jalfrezi on the right hand side here probably took about 20 minutes to make. There's a curry that's in one of the Rick Stein recipe books that I have, and it's Madras of red snapper, which sounds really exotic and complex, but it's we literally we're not going to go out and be buying red snapper. We're not going to be doing that. So we just swap that for cod or haddock or hake or any sort of frozen fish that's super cheap, and you get four or five, six of them. Whack them in the freezer. And because it's fish, it cooks really quickly, even from frozen. So we create the sauce. The sauce literally takes less than 10 minutes to make. You add the fish in, and all you have to do is use the sauce to cook the fish. As soon as the fish is cooked through, it's ready. That's it. So it can literally be 15, 20 minutes, if that. So loads and loads of different options out there to massively reduce those 50, 60, 70, 80 pound spends on takeaways, and switching them into fakeaways, let's say 3/4 of the time, 80% of the time, and you'll have a massive cost reduction straight away. So if we just move across to the kitchen now, where we're thinking about different ingredients and what to have in your in your cupboards and in your freezer, for example. So one of the things that I like to do is, when it comes to smoothies, it's amazing to have fresh ingredients like fresh strawberries, berries, raspberries, things like that, blueberries. However, when it comes to a smoothie, it doesn't really matter from like a taste perspective. It doesn't really add anything more. It can actually add more if you're getting like a bulk buy of a bag of frozen blueberries that are an absolute fraction of the cost. It could be £1, let's say, in comparison to the fresh ones that have got a very low shelf life. Therefore, it might be 2 or 3 times more expensive to get the fresh option. Nutritionally speaking, debatably, the frozen version's better, because all of those nutrients have been locked in. It's not been exposed to the environment and things like that, and have any sort of degradation in nutrients. So when it comes to the smoothies, we have like packs of fresh pineapple, mango. It could be raspberries, blueberries. So there's loads of different types of smoothies that we can have. And again, just at a fraction of the cost. So if you're having fresh berries with your breakfast, frozen berries are absolutely fine. If you're doing, let's say, for example, overnight oats, there's no harm whatsoever in putting the frozen berries in there, because by the morning they'll have defrosted anyway. So again, we're just thinking about little ways of chipping away at those shopping bills so that you don't have to overspend in any areas. So we've got yogurts and fruit. Obviously, when it comes to the fruit, like we said, having frozen ingredients can absolutely maximize that. Like we said, overnight oats, casseroles. So when it comes to our sausage casseroles, which you can just picture in the middle there on the bottom row, that was actually a Hairy Bikers recipe. So if you search for Hairy Bikers sausage casserole, highly recommend it. And the reason being is because we've had it probably once a fortnight as a minimum for about a decade, maybe. So that's one of our staples, because it's high in protein and a ridiculous amount of veg, and it's super cheap to make. So you can get loads of portions, get it in the freezer, and that's you sorted for weeks as well. So it just makes your life easier going forward. However, within those casseroles, if you look here, we've got some beans in there. We've also got some peas. So those are cans of spicy mixed beans. And again, these cans are super, super cheap, but it pads out that meal so much. Also, frozen peas. We don't have fresh peas. We have a big, massive kilogram bag of frozen peas. Again, that's padding that meal out, but it's adding loads of nutrients. So you've got loads of low-cost ingredients going into that particular recipe. The only thing that sort of, again, in inverted commas, costs, as in it just costs a bit more than the rest of the ingredients, is things like the bacon and the sausage. But again, it doesn't cost that much anyway. So on average, this meal is super, super cheap and cheerful, but at absolutely zero expense to flavour and being excited to have that meal. So obviously your canned and frozen stuff has a fantastic shelf life. And again, to put it into perspective, on top right-hand corner here, for breakfast, a little bit of cheesy beans on some granary toast and some scrambled egg, 43 pence. It's not bad, is it? In comparison to, oh, I'm going to go out and get a breakfast sandwich or something on the way to work because I'm a little bit rushed or whatever. It could be £4, £5, £6 or something like that. So, an absolutely astronomical saving. Now, the other thing is there's the snowball effect as well. So if you do generally eat out or have convenience food and you go to the sandwich shop or you don't prep as much or you do have the takeaways or things like that, it's going to compound even more over, especially over the across the whole year. When you're swapping things out that are literally less than 50 pence per meal, for things that might be 5, 10, 15, £20 per meal, it's a staggering amount that you can potentially save. Obviously, I'm just going to touch upon the meal deals again. This photo was actually taken a while back. I should probably update that. I don't think you can get a meal deal anywhere for £3 anymore. But when it comes to the mass, about £3 to £4 a day. You can even get meal deals for £5 or £6 as well. Like the finest ones and specialty ones and all that stuff. But if we just work it basically on £3 to £4 a day, I know so many people that don't prep their lunches and they go out on their dinner break and just, oh, I'm just going to nip to the shop. It's so much easier. And it's only £3 or £4. And you think, well, okay, it's not that expensive. Fill your boots, go for it. But the problem is they do it most days, which means that they're spending £15, £20 a week or £60 to £80 per month. And if there's two people in the house doing that, that's 120 to £160 per month. And again, obviously, these figures can increase and decrease depending on the frequency and where you are and how expensive things are with your food choices. But again, if we're looking at that at the bottom there, even if let's say if it was just half that, so there's two people doing that every now and again, once, twice, maybe 3 times a week. So we're looking at £60 to £80 a month. Again, we're getting on for literally £1,000 per year saved. It's inordinate amounts of money that are saved just from this one tweak. So another top tip is just to chop away at those fresh herbs and ingredients, also certain vegetables potentially. So if you're fortunate enough to have the ability to obviously grow your own food and have like a little planter box in the garden, things like chilies, tomatoes, onions in a greenhouse maybe, amazing. You can save a shed load from that as well. Even just simple things like, as you can see on the windowsill here, we've just been growing a massive pot full of basil. We're not going to get through that in a week. So let's say we might use half of that, and then next week we'll use the other half, and by that time the other half has started growing again, and it's sort of it's a bit of a cycle where we've probably saved on 3, 4, 5 weeks worth of buying fresh basil from the supermarket that you just didn't need. So again, it's only a little amount. Might only be £5 or £6 or something that month saved, but that's just basil. So we've also grown chilies as well, and that's another £1 or £2, and we're doing that every week, and we have chilies in quite a lot of meals. So now we're going to maybe £10 a month that we're saving roughly now, and again you're just chipping away at those different areas. So over the course of the year, another £120 in the bank straight away. So, like we said earlier, and again, just to elaborate on that topic, the idea is that we need to be bulking out your meals as much as possible with low-cost ingredients. So that means that you can have something like this, for example. It's like a paprika chicken and lentil dal. Obviously, this meal's loaded with red lentils. That meal is absolutely beautiful. It's not we need to get rid of this misconception, really, if you have it, that is that cheap ingredients, it's just you're going to be crafting something that's just not very good because you're not using all these weird and wonderful handcrafted ingredients from the finest section and all that sort of stuff. It's absolute nonsense. The cheapest ingredients put together well make the best meals. So like we said, this one in the bottom left, absolutely full of red lentils. Lentils are super, super cheap. Pasta, super cheap. We've got rice, super cheap. Like we mentioned earlier on, again, this is another version. Sorry to bring up the sausage casserole yet again, but it's just that good that I wanted 2 photos in. So we've got beans in there. We've got spicy mixed beans. We've got the frozen peas in there. Again, the other cheap ingredients in there are things like onion, garlic, tinned tomatoes or passata or a bit of a mixture of both. And of course, we've got the peas on the plate there as well. So we've got some mashed potatoes. Potatoes are cheap as chips as well. So this meal here is just it's like you know, on this particular evening, I had my parents round and I cooked for everybody. And it doesn't feel as though it's a meal that's like super cheap and just sort of thrown together sort of thing. But little do they know, it'll it'll cost a fraction of a lot of meals that people generally have, you know, on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis. So another topic that can really help with just reducing those costs is batch cooking. So, like we said earlier on, we do have things like whole roast chicken. It can often be cheaper just to buy the whole roast chicken than to just buy the chicken breast on its own, especially nowadays with the cost of things. So all it takes is just a little bit more effort, a little bit more energy. I've actually got an air fryer at home as well, so it's big enough to fit in, you know, a small, maybe a medium-sized whole chicken. So you can just put some little bit of oil, some herbs and seasoning and things like that, and just put it in the air fryer. That's it. It's done. There's nothing else. There's nothing else really to do, you know, as in intensive cooking wise. However, what you can also do is obviously put it in the oven with lots of other veg. As you can see here, we were roasting off some onions and garlic and carrots, and there's loads of obviously different other types of veg that you can include there. But what that meant was that once we'd had the chicken, obviously the actual meat off the chicken, we were left with the carcasses as well. So what we did was we made our own stock from that, and this is some of the stock from a previous week that we used. Sorry, that we created from the previous week's gravy or stock making. So once it comes to the ingredients that you've got here, and you've got things like this in the fridge or in the freezer, we can start making meals like these here in the middle. So again, like a beautiful hoisin Chinese chicken, the shredded chicken comes from the whole chicken. The sauce itself, instead of using having to go out and buy stock, we've got literally our own homemade stock, which tastes way better to start helping make that sauce. Also, we've got curries on the right-hand side here. The stock in these curries are generally stuff that we've made ourselves. We just take that out of the freezer. So again, just a little bit of preparation, a little bit of planning, a tiny little bit of extra energy, and you get a massive amounts of other benefits. So what about grilled chicken? So you know we've got like a George Foreman grill at home. We've also got the air fryer. So instead of just going, oh, I'm going to make my lunch for tomorrow, and that's it. Why not try and get 4 or 5, 6 different chicken breasts in there and make it all at once and creating the marinade for all of those? And then that's your lunches sorted for the rest of the week. And then because your lunches are sorted for the rest of the week, you're less inclined to go out because it's all prepped up. You're less inclined to be, you know, getting to the company vending machine or nipping out to you know, on your dinner break to shops and things like that. Also, just to help with breakfast, this is something that we do in the primary schools that we work in with the kids. So if the kids can do it, we certainly can. All we do is put a tiny little bit of oil in these muffin trays. They've overfilled these. They clearly didn't listen in this class, but I'm not getting at them too much. But you just need to leave a little bit of a gap before you put it in the oven because it expands. But these are a perfect opportunity if it's simple. It's just whisking some eggs up, mixing some veg and maybe some meat or chicken or whatever you want in as part of that. But if we just take a step back and go, well, let's take a look at nutritionally speaking, if that helps. It's absolutely loaded with protein. It makes your life easier in the mornings because you can just grab them off a plate from the fridge because you've already pre-cooked, you know, let's say 12 of these in one go. It might take you 15, 20 minutes to do that, and you've got days and days of breakfast sorted. You know, going forward, and it's just ready to consume. In our house, again, on the baking side, I'm not going to take any credit for this, but Jade likes to make fruity flapjacks. You know, they've got loads of different types of seeds and berries and things like that in it, so it's like nutrient dense. Also, you're in control of the sugar. Instead of going out and buying those flapjacks that cost £2 or £3 each, and you get a little square like that, you know, for £2 or £3, you can literally have a whole massive trays worth that keeps for a couple of weeks. So, you know, again, the whole family sorted and again, reducing those costs. And then things like stir fries, you know, is it possible for you to like double up on those volumes so that again, you're having it that evening, but you've also got a portion tomorrow for your lunch. Again, it just stops you nipping out and going to those shops and things like that. So again, just on the waste reduction side of things, pasta sauces, curry sauces, casseroles, stocks, like we've mentioned, homemade soups, even things like fish pies, shepherd's pies, even bread, wraps, all the stuff like that, even milk. Again, it takes up a little bit of room in the freezer, but you can freeze all of these things so that we're just reducing that waste all over again. And then lastly, just on the cooking methods side of things. So the top tier really for and we're talking more about your energy bills now. So again, it might sound a little bit over the top talking about your energy bills and in nutrition, but what people don't think about is that you might be using cooking equipment 2 or 3 times every single day in your household. So it is actually a large contributing factor to your bills. So if we could just tweak the recipes and tweak the cooking methods and things like that, things like your slow cooker are going to be top tier for energy saving. Slow cooker, because it just it cooks obviously for a long period of time, but it's low and slow, and there's a small amount of space to heat up essentially. Also, air fryers, you're not having to heat a massive oven. There's nothing really massively magical about air fryers. It just means that there's a smaller space. So you don't have to heat a massive volume of space. The smaller the space, the less energy is needed. So air fryers are super economical as well. So I use mine all the time. When you're frying things, if we can just maybe have a speedy pan fries, to make like stir fries like this, for example. If you've got stuff on the hob for a large period of time, that's fine, but just make sure that if we can, you're doing a large batch on the hob rather than just a small batch of something. Because if you've got a large batch, obviously you're getting multiple servings out of that for the similar time that it's been on the hob. If you're using the cooker's a little bit of a thumbs down for energy consumption, to be honest. However, if you are going to be using the cooker on a regular basis, that's fine. If you can, get your thinking cap on and go, do you know what? I'm going to put lots and lots of chicken breasts in that cooker, because if it's going to be on for 20, 30 minutes, no problem. But we're going to get 8 servings out of that, or 6 or 5 servings out of that, not just 1 or 2. So again, we're just trying to be more economical as possible. So hopefully that all made sense to you guys. Hopefully you've I don't know, like in 6 months' time, you might have another Ferrari on the drive or something, or booking your 9th holiday of the year, maybe. I don't know. But even what I will say is, obviously, there's loads and loads of hints and tips and cheat sheets and things like that in there. But you don't have to do them all. But even if you just pick 1, 2, or 3 of those, and stick with it as ever with nutrition, you've just got to do it consistently. If you do it consistently, it'll snowball over the course of the year, and you'll be surprised just how much that you can save by even implementing 2 or 3 of those, 20, 30 topics that we covered today. So does that all make sense?
Yes, thank you very much.
Happy days. Has anybody got any questions or any challenges at the moment or anything like that? No, all good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we're fine, thank you. We actually do a fair amount of
Fair
that.
amount of that. Yeah.
That's
But
brilliant.
it just focuses you a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you take nothing away from it, or one thing away, should we say, from it, just that first slide, the meal planning, that has a massive snowball effect for absolutely everything else. It automatically reduces waste. It automatically helps you hit protein targets, calorie targets, 5 a day, reduce waste and like multiple different areas. So if everybody just meal plans, then I'm happy. We
did it right in lockdown, and we had a little chart that we used to fill in every day.
We did a week
before we did a sort of
every
online
week,
cook.
exactly, and usually it was from Joe Wicks, wasn't it?
Yeah, a lot of Joe Wicks stuff.
And we lost.
No, they're good. They're good.
We lost massive amounts of weight.
But then we were
walked
walking
every
miles
day.
everywhere, because that's all you could do, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, I remember those days. My eldest now, he's 7, but I think what age will he have been? He'll have been about 3. Will he have been 4 something.
Younger than that, wouldn't he?
And he was I bought one of them backpack things, you can put
Yeah.
a child in. He was just
Yeah.
like strapped to my back, walking through the countryside and stuff for hours and hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, even though obviously we had no distractions and things like that, obviously, like you said, there was very little else to do other than focus on things like that. If we just try and keep up that focus, even though obviously, of course, we're not in lockdown anymore.
No,
But when life gets a bit hectic, that's when people go, "Oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I've not got time for this or that."
no.
And
But we still have our meal. We still have those meal plans,
Yeah, we've still got them in the
and they
cupboard
were
somewhere.
very effective because they gave you a calorie count on each one of them,
Yeah.
and so it did work. But this idea of doing things in batches and
Yeah, we're
keeping
not very good
sources
at
and
that,
we're
are we?
not very good at that.
And when we have our roast chicken, we make it last
Last
a couple, 2 or 3 days.
days,
But then we chuck
usually.
the carcass in the bin. But we should,
yeah.
we
But
should,
even then, you've still benefited just by buying the whole chicken. If you went
Yeah.
out and bought drumsticks and chicken thighs and chicken breast, and
Yeah,
it would be way more expensive anyway.
Yeah.
So you've already benefited from that step anyway.
we do it in the air fryer, don't we?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
we do
We
a lot
put
in
the
the
whole
air fryer.
chicken in the air fryer.
Yeah, they're so good. I love them.
Yeah,
And we do use the slow cooker a lot more now,
yeah, we do.
which is good.
Fantastic. Anything to add, Alex? Any challenges or anything or any questions?
No, I don't think so, but you've reminded me about frozen food.
Yeah.
I do all my shopping online, and I don't really meal plan in advance, but I do buy the same sort of things. Well, in fact, some weeks I'm so disorganized, I just repeat the shop from the week before.
Yeah.
So I do, but that consequently it means we do end up eating the same sort of meals every week. So I'll probably start trying to plan ahead a bit more, even if it's just like maybe 3 or 4 meals a week.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I've recently started buying frozen fruit because I would have always said I'm not a fan of smoothies, but I think that's because I was using like room temperature fruit,
Yeah.
which
This
isn't
the
very
thing.
palatable.
No, I know what you're saying, and again, you get the milk from the fridge, and then you put room temperature fruit in. It can often taste better and be more nutrient dense if you're getting it from the freezer, just because it's
Yeah.
frozen. It's the same as adding ice cubes to your smoothie. It's so much more
Yeah, definitely.
refreshing, especially when the weather decides to kick in and start being a little bit brighter in summer and stuff. You'll appreciate it all the more.
Yeah, definitely. But no, so I have been buying frozen fruit and enjoying them more. But I sort of not even thought about frozen veg, but I cook a lot of it like chilies and things like that. So it
Yeah.
makes sense to buy and like pre-chopped peppers. So I shall add that to my next list.
I was literally just about to say, I know this sounds like ridiculously lazy, but you can literally get like a massive bag of chopped onions. So even chopping onions, you don't even have to do that. Do you get what I mean? So if you want to really like optimize and get everything streamlined, I love the process. I love cooking and chopping it up myself and getting involved. But I completely understand that everybody has to be, have the same obsession about it as I do. So if life is a bit difficult and stressful and loads of stuff going on and finishing work late or lots of things vying for your attention, I'm all up for doing all of that stuff. Even things like with garlic and ginger, you can just buy a jar and keep it in the fridge, and it's like minced up garlic paste, minced up ginger paste, like we said, the chopped onions. So cooking a curry now, if you think about it, you just go to the freezer, you can start frying off the onions straight away from frozen. And then, there's a dollop of the ginger and garlic paste goes in. Straight away, you've started the base of your curry in a minute. So there's no chopping, there's no grating, there's no nothing to do. So, no problem whatsoever with any of those. Decent, guys. Okay, so I've enjoyed it today. Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Hopefully you benefit from it. And again, thanks to everybody that's watching the recording as well. Looking forward to the next one. What I'm going to do is put a little post in the group because I put a schedule. I'm not sure if we're down to the last one that I mentioned on the schedule or maybe.
I think we are actually.
Oh, we're right. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll get the next few months worth in the diary as well, so everybody can get that ring fenced and share some of the topics that we'll be covering as well. So looking forward to it, guys. Take care for now.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
See you again.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.